ones who came before me. I am stronger for their courage. I am wiser for their words. I am lifted by their longing for a fair and brighter future. I am grateful for their vision, for their toiling on this earth. We are standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before us. They are saints and they are humans. They are angels, they are friends. We can see beyond the struggle and the troubles and the challenge when we know that by their efforts things will be better in the end. They lift me higher than I could ever fly, carrying my burdens away. I imagine a world, if they hadn't tried, we wouldn't be here celebrating today. I am standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I am honored by their passion for our liberty. I will stand a little taller, I will work a little longer, and my shoulders will be there to hold the ones who follow me. My shoulders will be there to hold the ones who follow me.
Oh, wait a minute. You got to carry it over.
No, you can't. You
You get it, Greg.
It's a sharesy.
We're sharing today. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Ooh.
Okay. I think I'm good. Can I be heard? Okay, excellent. Good morning. Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. Our church is located here in the historic heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs, the historic district, and is known as the home of the Innes paintings. My name is BettyLou Cummins. I serve on the, your worship associate today. I'm also on the board of trustees. Okay. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities, whether you are a member or not. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or you can discuss activities with church members or our membership chair, who will contact you if we have your information. Today we welcome our children, who will begin with us in the service. We have faith formation programming available with our gifted leader, Jami Cruz. If you'd like more information about our programming, please contact Reverend Kristina or see Jami after the service. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out and put it in the offering plate or give it to one of our greeters, we will be able to keep in touch with you. We are delighted to have Reverend Kristina Spaude leading the service today. Music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, and our wonderful choir. They will be singing throughout the service, and you are welcome to sing along to the hymns wearing your masks, please. Okay. Today, again, welcome. And today we light our chalice with these words from Melanie Davis. If there ever were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
Please turn to number 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the land, giving life the shape of justice. Roots won't be closed, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our story for today is Belinda's Bouquet by Leslie Newman and illustrated by Michael Wilhoit. Some people are short, some people are tall, some people are dark, some people are light, some people are fat, some people are thin. Everyone looks different. My name is Daniel, and this is what I look like. My best friend's name is Belinda, and this is what Belinda looks like. Belinda and I do everything together. We play hide and seek and dress up and catch. We ride our bikes together and go swimming and sit next to each other at school. Every summer, Belinda and I go to camp. Today was our first day. When we got on the bus driver said, "My goodness, Belinda, you're even fatter this summer than you were last summer." Belinda didn't say anything, but her face got all red, like she was going to cry. After camp, Belinda came over to my house. One of my mothers was in the kitchen waiting for us. We told her about what happened. "Belinda, you tell that bus driver that your body belongs to you," Mama said. "It's none of anybody else's business what size your body is." We sat down at the table and Mama poured a glass of milk for Belinda and a glass of milk for me. She gave us each 3 peanut butter crackers. I started eating my snack, but Belinda just sat there. "What's the matter?" I asked her. "Aren't you hungry?" Belinda pushed her plate away. "I'm going on a diet," she said. "Maybe if I stop eating so much, I won't be fat." Mama came over and sat down next to us. "What did you have for lunch today, Belinda?" she asked. "I had a Swiss cheese sandwich and an apple and a glass of milk," Belinda said. "And what did you have for lunch today?" Mama asked me. "I had a tuna fish sandwich and a banana," and a glass of milk. I looked at Belinda. We ate the same amount, I said. Then how come I'm fat and you're not? Belinda asked. Let me tell you a story, Mama said. Once upon a time, there was a very wise woman who wanted to have a garden. So she put some seeds into the ground and she covered them with dirt. Every seed got the same amount of sunshine and every seed got the same amount of rain. Some of the seeds grew into short petunias and some of the seeds grew into tall sunflowers. Some of the seeds grew into dark pansies, and some of the seeds grew into light daisies. Some of the seeds grew into fat marigolds, and some of the seeds grew into thin irises. Each flower was different, and each flower had its own special kind of beauty. And every person has their own special kind of beauty, too. Belinda shook her head. I'm not beautiful, she said, but maybe I will be after my diet. Let me finish the story, Mama said. One day, the very wise woman looked at her garden and she decided she wanted the short, fat marigolds to be tall and thin like the irises. So she put all the marigolds on a diet. She only gave the marigolds half as much sunshine as all the other flowers. She only gave the marigolds half as much rain as all the other flowers. What happened to the marigolds? Belinda asked. Did they get tall and thin? Oh no, said Mama. All their leaves started to wither and droop. They got tired and soon the poor little marigolds couldn't even hold their heads up to the sun. Then what happened to the marigolds? I asked Mama. Then, Mama said, the very wise woman realized she wasn't very wise at all, and it was foolish to try to make all her flowers look the same. So she gave the marigolds all the sunshine they wanted and all the water they wanted. Then what happened to the marigolds? Belinda and I cried out. Well, Mama said, looking out the kitchen window, I think the very wise woman is out working in her garden right now. Let's go see. I got up and we all ran out the door into our backyard. There was my other mother, kneeling in her flower garden, pulling up some weeds. All around her there were sunflowers and petunias and daisies and pansies and irises and hundreds of marigolds. Hi, Mommy, I yelled out. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Belinda, Mommy yelled back. I bent down to smell the flowers. They're so pretty, I said. Mommy, can we pick some? Sure, Mommy said. Gardening is hard work, said Mama. You need your strength. Don't you think you'd better finish your snack first? Come on, Belinda yelled, racing me back to the house. I don't want to wither and droop. We went into the kitchen to eat our snack. Mama and Mommy had some too. I haven't seen you in a while, Belinda, Mommy said. You're getting nice and big and strong. My body belongs to me, Belinda said to Mommy. That's right, Mommy said. Ready to go pick some flowers? We ran back outside. I picked some of every type of flower and gave them to Mama to put in a vase. Belinda picked as many marigolds as she could hold in her two hands and proudly carried home the fat yellow bouquet. We are going to sing the children to their classes with Jami. We're going to sing hymn number, I believe it's 413?
413.
I have a scary memory. On the way out of the sanctuary, I'm going to invite the children up to the front so you can pick a flower to take with you to your time together.
The choir, we will all sing it together one time together, and then the choir will be dividing up into 4 parts. Sing with whom you like, but just sing. 2, 3, 4. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you
Now is the time in our service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of the church. Ours is a free faith, which means we must sustain ourselves financially. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click the Donate button. Or you may mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. For those of you with us in person, we ask that you place your offering in the offering plate as you exit the sanctuary. Thank you.
I have a meditation this morning for you. This is A Bouquet of People by Claire Feingold Thoren, modeled after a well-known and much cherished prayer by the late Reverend Max Coots. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children. Like tulips and irises, they multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves ever further from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow into. We give thanks for generous friends, as constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift our body and spirit. We give thanks for feisty friends, as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go, and can never be gotten rid of. For crotchety friends, as prickly as rose bushes, their beauty a secret that is only discovered through careful gardening. For surprising friends who at first glance seem dour and then blossom into joy as quickly as for Cynthia. For funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. For comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as the sweet smell of lilacs. For stormy weather friends who stand by us in hard times, like lily of the valley that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on fast as flocks. For friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as pachysandra, as steadfast as azalea, and who, like snowdrops, can be counted on to see you through the winter and remind you that spring always comes. For loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. For this bouquet of people who brighten our lives each in their own way, we give thanks. And our reading today comes from my friend and colleague Elizabeth Mount. This is The Right to Choose. To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate. All these are our birthright. As we are created, so may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that chance from any person without their permission would be a violent act, the cutting off of life itself. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent. These, too, are our birthright. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there can be no trustworthy yes. Today we come to this holy place and time, ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community once again. This, too, is a choice. You cannot, you may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or with one another. I invite you, I ask you to join us. I respect it if you will not, today or ever. More sacred than any other individual need is choice, the right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for, what you need, to stretch when you can, to pause when you will, to know your body, your mind, your spirit better than anyone else, and ultimately to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. For about 20 years, Dr. George Otto Gay had been working for Johns Hopkins Medical School as a biologist when he suddenly had a major discovery in his lab. He and his wife, Margaret, developed techniques for filming and photographing cell growth within test tubes. Their research, according to Johns Hopkins, produced new developments in organ and cell culture, intracellular and membrane cytology, and in vitro investigations in endocrinology, oncology, and virology. Gay's research was possible because of the tissue samples sent to him by various departments around the hospital. It was 1951, with a sample from the Department of Gynecological Pathology that Dr. Gay struck gold with. His research assistant, Mary Kubitschek, isolated cells from a cervical tumor. The cells were like nothing they'd ever seen before. They not only survived when all other previous cells had died, they thrived. They were hardy and could live a long time. The cells were used in the development of the polio vaccine, led to the first clone of a human cell, helped in the discovery that humans have 46 chromosomes, and were used to develop in vitro fertilization. They have been used to study parvovirus in dogs, cats, and humans, and in the development of human papillomavirus, or HPV, vaccines. Research linking HPV to cervical cancer with the help of these cells earned another doctor a Nobel Prize. The cells have been used in a number of cancer studies to develop and refine treatments available for patients. What these cells have given to science cannot be understated. They are incredibly prolific and have been a part of many major medical breakthroughs around the world for more than 70 years. Around 100 pharmaceutical companies have used and profited off of these cells. There are more than 11,000 patents involving these cells. Tens of thousands of scientific articles have been published about research done on and with these cells. They have been described as revolutionizing medical research. The patient these cells came from was a mother of 5, Henrietta Lacks, who died in 1951 at the age of 31 from an aggressive cervical cancer, which had been causing her significant pain. Her youngest wasn't even a year old when she died. Her trip to Johns Hopkins was driven by the fact that it was either the only or one of the only of a few hospitals in the area that would provide care for Black folks. An autopsy revealed that the cancer had metastasized throughout her body, and she was buried without a headstone. It wasn't until an article published in Rolling Stone in 1976 that the family became aware of the existence of the cells, by then long referred to as HeLa cells of the HeLa cell line. They were called HeLa from the first 2 letters of her first and last names as a way to protect her identity. The cells had been taken without Lacks or her family's knowledge or consent, an unfortunately common practice at the time. Lacks' life story was shared with the world in 2010 when Rebecca Skloot's book, The Immortal Life of Henry Lacks, was released. Immortal is how the HeLa cells are described due to their longevity and hardiness. This brings up issues related to race as well as class, education, and gender, and medical practices, power, and privilege. While Johns Hopkins has not, it says, financially benefited from the HeLa cells itself, many, many, many companies, governments, institutions, organizations, and people have benefited from how her cells have been used, with the necessary note that Lacks' family has struggled to be allowed to benefit from some of the life-saving or life-prolonging treatments her cells have made possible, nor have they received any compensation for their acquisition or use. There are layers and layers of bioethical concerns in this story. Honestly, there's so much wrong with this picture, I'm not even sure if anything's right. This was 1951. Women had entered the labor force at that time, but fairly minimally, and there were very clearly no effort put into equal pay. In many states, women's property rights were still limited, and we often could not sign contracts, even wills, or have control over our earnings, which were the legal rights of husbands or fathers. White women gained the right to vote in 1920, but few held any office. Similarly, few women pursued education. Even if they'd wanted to, they would likely have expected it to not last for long, as birth control was illegal, and any married man was able to have sex with his wife anytime. There was no understanding of rape. Marriage out of high school and by their early 20s was the norm, so women could be raising their families for decades, as I'm sure some of you are aware. Brown v. Board of Education wasn't decided until 1952. The Civil Rights Act became law in 1964, and the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Loving v. Virginia, which legalized interracial marriage, was decided in 1967. Roe v. Wade, of course, was decided in 1973. In dementia care, we talk about the last in, first out principle, that the most recent memories are the first to be lost. I expect that our rights will follow suit if Roe is overturned, as it appears likely to next month. When Roe goes, the rest of it will be chipped away at even more. Folks, this legislation has all been on the books since before I was born. I have never known a world without them, even as imperfect as it still is. It's been a challenge knowing that these rights are tenuously and inconsistently applied. And we all know that racism, sexism, and the other isms are alive and well in our country. It's been hard to know how fragile all of this has been, but at least we had the legislation and precedent. I don't think that's a safe assumption anymore. It was the Lax case that began to change the conversation on patients' rights, just as Brown had begun to change the conversation about the educational rights of Black and brown children, as the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts did about individuals' rights to work and vote without discrimination. In the 1960s, it was Patricia McGinnis who began to change the conversation about women's rights to have an abortion, framing the debate as an individual's right to choose what happens to and in their body. McGinnis was a radical of the time, a passionate educator on many things, including do-it-yourself abortions, and an advocate, practitioner of civil disobedience, networker, and declared at the very old age of 38 a spinster. She openly challenged laws in order to be arrested to take the cases to court. Of course, 100 years prior to McGinnis's work, abortion was common. Even through the Civil War, women were able to get abortions safely and openly. Advertisements were run in papers and posted on storefronts for these services. And at least one estimate is that between 20 and 35% of pregnancies were terminated by abortions in the 19th century. After the Civil War and other events in American history, one of the major shifts in medicine was for doctors to become obstetricians and gynecologists, which had until this time been almost exclusively the work of midwives, about half of whom were Black women. As physicians, overwhelmingly white men, took over this role, abortion practices were moved from women's rights to physicians' choice. McGinnis's efforts in the 1960s, along with those of others, mostly women, and eventually Roe, brought the debate back to women. Today, we recognize that not only women and girls can become pregnant, but people also of marginalized genders, and so we might just refer to pregnant people. As our Side with Love campaign wrote recently, our Unitarian Universalist faith affirms that all of our bodies are sacred and that we are each endowed with the twin gifts of agency and conscience. Each of us should have the power to decide what does and doesn't happen to our bodies at every moment of our lives, because consent and bodily autonomy are holy. And when disparities in resources or freedoms make it more difficult for certain groups of people to exercise authority over their own bodies, our faith compels us to take liberatory action. The right to choose freely is the cornerstone of our faith. We come from two heretical faith traditions, Unitarianism and Universalism. Overturning Roe is not just ethically incomprehensible, but also an affront to our deeply held fundamental religious values. Each person has the right to their bodily autonomy insofar as their autonomy doesn't violate the autonomy of others. This is why we can require people to mask, but we cannot obligate people to give blood or marrow or organs, or anything else. Even those who are eligible to give their organs are not required to donate them. Either you have to give a written consent prior to being declared brain dead, or family has to give their consent for organ donation, or it cannot happen. Bodily autonomy and consent matter. 30-odd years before Henrietta Lacks died, a middle-aged Baptist minister converted to Unitarianism while in the U.S. The Reverend Dr. Norbert Chapek had come to the States with his wife, Maya, and their children during the Great War, World War I. Convicted by his new faith, they returned home to Czechoslovakia, where Reverend Dr. Chapek founded the Unitarian Church in Prague in 1921. The people of his congregation were lovely, but it was missing something. He had an idea. Each person was asked to bring a flower or budding branch with them to church the following Sunday. The service was about a number of ideas related to the flowers, their unique beauty, how they differed from each other in shape, color, size, and kind, and the wonderful image they created when brought together. This was in 1923 when the Chapeks hosted the first flower festival. Reverend Dr. Chapek then made comparisons between the flowers and the people, reminding them each of their inherent worth and dignity, their beauty, the power they create and share when together. One blessing he shared is, "Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and in affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish a friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. It became a ritual of togetherness and hope, and one that brought the community closer together to each other in a way that they had previously been unable to be. The church flourished. In 20 years, it had about 3,200 members. In 1939, by then Reverend Maya Chapik returned to the U.S. to fundraise for relief efforts at home, where things were quickly worsening in Europe. As war erupted, she was unable to return and actually settled as a minister in our New Bedford, Massachusetts congregation for about 4 years while here. During her time touring the U.S. and serving in New Bedford, she shared the flower festival she and her husband had created. In the midst of war, Reverend Chapik offered hope and connection through the ritual exchanging of flowers. I must note that Reverend Dr. Chapik had chosen to remain at home despite invitations to return to the U.S., as he felt called to remain with his people. In 1941, along with one of their daughters, he was arrested by the Gestapo, and his books, sermons, and other writings were confiscated. He was charged with listening to foreign radio broadcasts, which was a capital offense, and other crimes. But of course, it was his heretical liberal theology that led him to be convicted. Ever a minister, he continued to support others in the camps, inspiring hope and an inner strength and peace through his quiet presence. He spent about 1.5 years imprisoned and in concentration camps until he was gassed to death in late 1942. Reverend Maya only learned of his death after the war ended. As we look forward to the foretold promise that Roe would be overturned, things look scary. They are. I believe we are heading into the desert to wander for 40 years. Even when the majority of Americans believe in abortion rights to some extent, the majority sitting on the Supreme Court does not reflect our values. Conservatives played for the long game and are reaping their rewards now. More rights will be restricted or taken away in the coming years if they continue to have their way. Early this week, I was not prepared to offer hope. I have been sitting in the spiritual equivalent of Good Friday, in the hurt and anger and sadness that comes from loss and not knowing what the future holds. I needed for you to earn hope for yourselves. There's no hope if we aren't all making it together. Hope is not a spectator sport, nor for those on the sidelines. Clearly, that won't take us where we want to go. The only sustainable hope comes by making it, by showing up, by voting, by speaking out, by knowing where and who we have been and being willing to make the future together. Wednesday and Thursday, in between and while I was working on this service, I also sat present to Marlo Jones' trial. Jones was accused of battering a police officer and obstructing or resisting arrest. The circumstances were questionable, and it was clear that he was targeted because he is young, a leader in the Black community, and one of a few multi-generational Black families in the community. We were hopeful, but it was in Pasco, and the state had refused to drop the case for almost 2 years. I'm grateful to say that Jones was found not guilty on all charges. While I remain convinced the road ahead will be a difficult one, I'm finding myself allowing myself to be held shakily by the possibility of hope again. Marge Piercy's poem, The Low Road, is one I return to again and again. She writes, "What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can burn your brain with electricity, blur you with drugs till you can't walk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight, you can refuse, you can take what revenge you can, but they roll over you." But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again and they say no. It starts when you say we and you know who you mean. And each day you mean one more. Thankfully, we don't have to have all the answers or even believe in a better future. Our only duties at this time are to do the next right thing, the next best thing, and to love and support each other. Whatever the future holds, let us promise to go there together, through the good and the bad, through war and peace, through hardship and abundance. May we never turn our backs on each other and always leave space for the one more and the one more after that in our we. And when our service is ended, not yet, I invite you, if you choose, to take a flower in memory of the Chapeks, the blessing of this faith, our hope, our promise, our covenant to make the future more just together and honor the beauty that is yet possible in this world. If you would please join me in singing our closing hymn in the Teal hymnal, number 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when the hunger and compassion meets to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and the future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meets to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then the promise finds fulfillment and the future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice. Faith demands a higher justice built by our courageous choice. When will fire of commitment wins our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then the promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
In The Gift of Faith, Jean Harrison Newyar has written, "In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, 'Where is the road called hope?' He replied, 'It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being.' I invite you to continue moving forward on this unbuilt, unpaved, unclear road called hope with me."
So, okay. There we go. We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words by Robin F. Gray. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or in the love we share in all the world. I do have a couple announcements. There'll be would you stay a bit first to say hello to our folks on Zoom who are with us on Zoom. Also, there will be a forum today. If you're new to UUCTS, please have coffee and a snack and then join in the forum. May 15th, next Sunday, will be a busy day. There'll be a Buddha's birthday brunch. Say that fast 3 times. After the service, please see details and perhaps sign up to bring a dish. Also on that day, I understand Peter Grace will be providing the benefit for Ukraine at that afternoon out in Trinity. So thank you, and don't forget your flower.